Perusing the shelves here at Northside Records, one of my favourite record stores in the whole world, and I couldn't go past this guy, Mr. George Benson. It's a record of his on the CTI label, which is a big favourite of mine. Benson is one of the greatest jazz guitarists of all time, and I kind of got my start playing guitar trying to play just like guys like him and Grant Green and Wes Montgomery, Melvin Sparks, and he got his start playing just hardcore soul jazz with brother Jack McDuff, an organist, way back in the mid-60s. He started out as a singer and just sort of picked the guitar up, and George Benson's way of just picking the guitar up is to become one of the greatest players of all time anywhere. And I've learned a couple of his licks and sort of just keep playing them in public, but this guy. Mr. Donnie Hathaway, one of the greatest singers of all time, and this album, live album, very special to me in a lot of ways. I've just kind of lived with this record for, gee, maybe like the last 25 years. And there's some great guitar players on this record, but my favourite one, Cornell Dupree, who played a lot with Aretha Franklin and on a lot of those Atlantic records, King Curtis. He also visited Melbourne, it was maybe 18 years ago now, and he was doing in-store signing, very much in a store like this in the city, and I rushed down to this record store, and there he was, sitting at a little desk with his pipe, and there was no one in there, and I kind of felt bad about this because there was just no one there, but in a selfish way I got to sit next to Cornell Dupree and chew his ear off about what playing on this record was like and what playing on a whole bunch of other records was like, and he was the nicest man and gave me free tickets to the show later in the night, which I didn't have enough money to buy at the time because I was a professional dishwasher, and that's my Cornell Dupree story, and if you haven't heard this record, you got to get on it. Stevie Wonder songs and the Key of Life, 1977, just another monumental record. I mean, this one, there's certain records that have come out, I think, regardless of genre, that are just monumental albums, pieces of work that are almost like sculpted out of sonic granite or something like that, and they'll just last forever, and this is definitely one of those albums. I can thank my big sister, Leola, for introducing me to this when I was very small, and I actually, even though I was musically abused somewhat by my parents who played a lot of Neil Diamond, Hot August Night, I had my big sister playing albums like this for me, so it came out okay. This is a great compilation album called James Brown's Funky People. I guess a lot of these records I pulled out are special albums for me kind of when I was coming up in music, but back in the day, when I was a professional dishwasher, I didn't have much money, and so I saw this record in the window of a record store around where I was living, very much like this kind of one, and it was in there. It was just it was like on a display. I was like, I've just got to get this record, whatever I do, and I literally saved up for it because I wasn't just going to go in there and use PayPass or whatever. It was like I saved up for a couple of weeks. Later I found the original records that, this compiles, but there's just something special about this compilation in my life, and it's got incredible music on it. The last record I'd like to talk about, and pulled from the racks, is this one, Gears by Johnny Hammond. Definitely a rare groove classic, and thankfully reissued. It's great when these sort of records get reissued because the original of this goes for a lot of money. I certainly parted with a fair bit of money for it. Now, this record is produced by a production team called the Moselle Brothers, who did some incredible stuff. Kind of, I guess their golden period was through the 70s, but they worked with the Jackson 5, I Want You Back, and ABC early on, but then did a whole bunch of, I suppose what you would say are kind of jazz-influenced pop soul records, jazz records of the time. And I had the amazing good luck to talk my way into a jam session with these guys at the Red Bull Music Academy a few years back in Melbourne. And this particular record is also important to me because it really influenced one of the songs on the Raw Material album, which I put out. I basically initially made this whole album of material to be sampled to create a second album. One of the touchstones that influenced one of those songs was called Tell Me What to Do. It's got incredible drumming on it by Harvey Mason, who's one of the great drummers of all time. And I really just wanted to capture that flavour of that song in a way. And the Moselle Brothers, Johnny Hammond, Gears, check this one out.